And we are live here at Delaware Valley. Frank Rossi with James Baker joining me in Florida. We are here for the quarterfinals, the pregame of the Brockport-Delaware Valley game, but we're going to talk about all 4 games here as we have some great action across the country this afternoon. This morning right now is where we're at, so I hope you're enjoying your morning coffee, folks. James, we have games, obviously, like I said, across the country, but this one will definitively give us a participant in the semifinals from the East region for the first time since 2006. Yeah. As St. John Fisher was the last time to see a semifinal game from the East region. The last time that an East region team hosted a semifinal game, which is still possible under the circumstances, it was in 1998. Never in the current setup of the D3 playoffs has it happened. And one of these teams could actually do it if St. Thomas were to beat UMHB, which is a long shot today, we know. So let's focus on what's in front of us here first. This should be a great game between the two teams. We have a Del Val team that has just lit it up across the MAC season that they played, and also against Wesley in the first week of the season, and a Brockport team that has, I would say, been battle-tested with the Wesley game last week, the Alfred game in Week 10, etc. So this is an interesting matchup, and though Del Val hosts, a lot of people feel that Brockport may be the favorite in the game. What's your thinking here?
Hey, hell breaks loose behind me. It's one of those great opportunities for both programs. It's kind of something we've circled from early on in the season. So we knew it was coming to a head, and here we are, and it should be an exciting matchup.
I enjoy the dog in the background. Come on, that's Revenge for the Birds I've had in the background throughout the year. But in this game, we're going to see a matchup of two defenses that really have seemed to catch the attention across the country of a lot of pundits out there. We look at the high scores that they put up in the offenses, especially the Joe Germinario effect on Brockport, and yet, honestly, the defenses really are what got them to this point. Would you agree or disagree with that?
We saw it in Week 1 with Brock, and their team really shut down what was supposed to be a very potent Hobart offense, and they almost went up 21-7 on them, if not for kind of a fluky scoop and score play, which can it for a little while longer. But yeah, the offense has been putting up tons of yards, tons of points, and a lot of people would say that this Brockport team is more battle tested because of the Empire 8 schedule. The MAC is certainly no slouch, but we have 3 of teams get beat pretty soundly in both seasons. One in the ECAC Bowl and 2 in the Centennial MAC comp game. So there's a little bit of questioning around. Is this Del Val team as good as the 4th or 5th ranked team in the country? I think their defense certainly is. It'll depend on how Darden and that offense play, because they struggled a little more than I thought they could or should have. And they certainly haven't had to beat the same level of teams as Brockport has so far in the playoffs.
Good observations there. I want to come full box here for a second to show the entirety of what's behind me. You can see, I believe, we have both teams right now in the field. Delaware Valley is directly behind me in the white, and you'll see more in the distance Brockport in the green. I was talking to offensive coordinator Steve Potter earlier, and he was telling me that it took about a 6-hour ride from Brockport down to Doylestown Township, Pennsylvania, which is where I'm at right now, which is pretty fair when you think about it. In terms of the travel you could face at this point in the playoffs, that's fair. 6 hours is not the end of the world. But they are happy to be here, he said, and they're ready. They're ready to play this game. Del Val, same thing. Obviously, the waiting is the toughest part of everything, and we're going to try in the post game, I should add, to try to get some interviews from the winning coach and some players right after the game. So you'll want to come back to our Facebook Live channel, and we'll wrinkle out any technical issues we've had in the pregame version of this, but we've been pretty good overall here. James, there are 4 games. We did not ever do lightning predictions this week, and so let's take everybody around the country and sort of predict things a little bit. Let's go to the games that don't involve East teams first. And though we don't have a clock on this, it is lightning predictions still. And let's first talk about the Wartburg-Oshkosh game. It's at Oshkosh. And runner-up last year was Oshkosh. Wartburg's been a team that's had some interesting games. Close one against Franklin. It was an overtime game in round one, and then not so much of a matchup against Trine. They just kind of routed them from beginning to end in that game. Who gets this game, do you think?
Well, I mean, a lot of times you have to just go with the home team in these playoff games. The fact that the Titans are trying to get back to the Stag Bowl, where they came up 3 points short in last year's championship game, I think you have to lean towards them. I remember seeing in some of the predictions that you were involved in with D3Football.com. Sort of the question is, will the real Wartburg please show up? So it'll be interesting to see whether the Titans can, kind of take Wartburg out of their game the way the Grizz did in round one. And I think you probably have to, give the upper hand a little bit to the Titans. I think they'll probably win this close one, maybe pulling away late, but something to the tune of like 28-14.
Yeah, to me, the Titans have the edge here. I think they are a more battle-tested team with that Wisconsin WIAC schedule that they have to play. So WIAC or WIAC, we never did resolve that throughout the season. But I'm thinking that Oshkosh does have the better battle-tested resume right now. They'll end up winning that game probably by the score of 30-17. Also, a game that will affect the winner of this game, obviously, is UMHB, Mary Hardin-Baylor, defending national champions. They are hosting St. Thomas. That's a really good matchup. I mean, if you think about the fact that St. Thomas has been there, twice into the Stag Bowl in the last 7 years? Once or twice. I always forget the exact progression. But UMHB, the defending national champions. So these are the teams that have sort of poked through when Whitewater and Mount Union could not, the Titans being the other team that's poked through in that time. But this year it seems like St. Thomas is a little bit off compared to, a Mary Hardin-Baylor team. But Mary Hardin-Baylor's got a freshman quarterback, and that offense is sputtering a little bit at times, though they make up for it in defense and then second half play. What do you think about that one?
I think it's going to be a tough game for both teams. I do think the defenses are going to have a lot to say. I do think probably the Crusaders will have the edge from the quarterback to eat this one out, kind of a 21-17 type of game.
Sorry about that, JB. Producing and hosting are at the same time on a live broadcast. Never easy, folks. I don't recommend it at home. I would think that UMHB's got the edge in this game, but the teams that are on this field today are going to be rooting hard for St. Thomas, because we think that if St. Thomas were to win, we at D3Football.com, we're discussing this week, we think that both Brockport and Delaware Valley would host over St. Thomas. We know that Del Val would because they're a 1 seed, but we're not so sure about the whole Brockport versus St. Thomas situation, since they're both technically 2 seeds for what we can tell. But we think the edge goes to Brockport in this. We'll find out Sunday if this were to happen. It's a 1 in 4 chance if it's a 50-50 on both ball games, but probably even lower than that in reality. I say UMHB wins this game 31. Wait, I've got scores in D3Football.com. Why don't you read my quick hits, actually, for me, James? Because because I can't remember. I think I said, actually, the Oshkosh game would be closer to that. I'm going to pull out my phone and get my own numbers here, because that would probably be the right thing to do. Oshkosh, I said, would... Yeah, well, it's not even showing up right now. While you go tell us about the Mount Union-Frostburg game, I'm going to go seek those out. So Mount Union is hosting Frostburg, and Frostburg, Delane Fitzgerald, we caught a podcast where he sort of was Delane Fitzgerald, we'll put it that way. He told folks at Frostburg, very candidly, that they're a great team at Mount Union, and at the same time he pointed out where the questioner was wrong about their win-loss record over the last 7 years, and then decided to tell the idea that, hey, it's probably great to have your father as the athletic director, which he sort of clarified if he kept going further, but I think that became a pull quote for Mount Union this week from what I'm hearing, among other things in that. But that's Delane Fitzgerald being Delane Fitzgerald at the end of the day. That's why we kind of love him. He kind of gives zero hex about everything, and that's what I got from that interview. But Mount Union's definitely a team that's rallying around itself right now. If you want to fill people in quickly on what happened, or briefly, and who the starting quarterback is, go ahead in your prediction.
Yeah, so there was an incident from a or so ago where Fulford, the sophomore quarterback for Mount Union, was pulled over at a traffic stop. Found out that he had a suspended license due to a felony issue as a minor down here in Florida. That resulted in his arrest, which apparently there were some subsequent charges filed due to a missed court appearance. At the end of the day, comments were reached out for by a number of different folks, including D3Football.com, and the resounding response from Mount Union was basically no comment. They did not want to get into it for whatever reason. Even though D'Angelo ended up missing a court appearance and bench warrant, which is similar to contempt of court, at least that's what it basically is here. The state was issued, and then a day or so later, he did appear in court. Apparently, there was a miscommunication on that appearance. At least that was the information provided by Fulford's attorney. He had to pay a $350 fine, received 2 points on his license, and apparently, that's it. And he's running today against Frostburg, and all intents and purposes, everyone's going to prep the Raiders to win that game. They don't lose very often, particularly in the playoffs. But it was a lot of distractions for the team this week. Distractions probably for the coaching staff and the administration. Not sure if that'll come into play. I think if Frostburg can hang on to the ball and put some pressure on the sophomore quarterback, they have a chance. So I know everyone else picked Mount Union, so I'm going to pick the upset. I'm going to put 6-8. Is going to surprise the Purple Raiders and dump the ice cold bucket of water on Coach Fitzgerald at the end by a field goal. Mustafa is going to kick a winning field goal, and it'll be 26-24.
I love the level of specificity you're coming down to give me this score. You broke up a little bit, but everybody got the very end of what you had to say there, so don't worry. So, by the way, my picks went as follows, so just catch up and be accurate. For the Wartburg Oshkosh game, Oshkosh 21-17 in favor of Oshkosh. For this game, 35-27 Mount Union, so I am part of that everybody, JB. Sorry about that. UMHB, I said would win 34-21 over St. Thomas, but let me put a caveat out there that I think Frostburg can match up against Mount Union today. I think size-wise, the disparity is not as large as it would be normally at this point, unless it's a Wesley team playing Mount Union in the third round, because I think we've seen that size-wise Wesley can usually match up at least reasonably well against Mount Union and give them a game in most years. I think Frostburg matches up that well size-wise. It's skill and depth that become the issues, I think, today, and ultimately I think Mount Union wins in the fourth quarter. We'll see what happens. Then we have this game, Delaware Valley in Brockport. Go ahead, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
The only final thing I'll say on Mount Union is they have two of the best wides in the country, and they have bailed out a full for incredible accuracy, from a passing perspective, 48 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. The only thing that I would add is that Washington and Jefferson's Mount Union in the season, they run a defense similar to Frostburg. They intercepted Fulford twice, and that's it'll be to see if he struggles in their matchup. I think that's going to have to find a way to get that off the field. Really, you can beat Mount Union if and when it ever. So it'll be interesting to see.
JB, your fan club has just passed by me, and they're asking me where you are today, actually. One person just stated, when I pointed to the monitor of the computer, he basically said, he's probably working on his tan today. So you are missed and loved here at Delaware Valley. I just want you to know that. I'm not sure if you ever got to Doylestown, but I think some Brockport fans may have been the ones that were giving you a little push there, a little jab. But let's talk about this game. As the sun comes back out, it's about 50 degrees will be the high here today. We were right about that earlier in the week. And this is, I took my jacket off. That's how nice it is in the sun. So this is perfect weather. The weather will not affect this game. There's no wind to really talk about. A little bit of sunlight, obviously, close to the earth, so it gets a little bright, but by noontime, should be right overhead. So having said all that, let's talk about the game itself. Joe Germinario, Sean Darden and company. We've got names across the board offensively, but defensively, it just seems like that's where this game may be won or lost. We saw Brockport score 2 straight defensive touchdowns last week in the third quarter within about a minute and 20 seconds of each other against Wesley to seal that game. We've seen Delaware Valley's defense throughout the season just step up. And when you think about it, honestly, this could be a very low-scoring game. We've seen some high scores predicted for this game because of the offensive prowess and maybe aggressive defense, as our friend Adam Turr put it on the quick hits on D3Football.com. But at the same time, JB, this could be a very low-scoring game. I mean, I think I set this one in the 20s to teens scenario or somewhere around there. What's your thought? How does this game play out from what you've seen these teams? And you've watched quite a bit of these teams throughout the season.
Yeah, I think this game's really going to come down to a guy who got his 5 seconds of fame last week. A three-man defensive front in the case of the 3-3 stack that Brockport runs. We've talked to Coach Chris Robertson at WPI. They run a similar concept, although more traditional 3-4. It always comes down to the nose tackle. And last week we saw McDonald have a pick six and really help elevate the Eagles to a different level in that game, sort of to help them put away Wesley early in the second half. And I think if the Eagles are going to have a chance to beat the Aggies today, it's going to guys Donald causing problems in the middle, putting pressure on Darden. Darden threw for over 300 yards against Hudson, but he only completed 49 passes, so he wasn't really on. And he did connect on some long bombs. I have the Brockport's defensive build is going to be a little bit tougher challenge. So they have a problem with McDonald up front. It could be a tough day for the Aggies offense.
Well, we get more fans. It's funny the recognition we get at these locations sometimes, JB, but you can probably hear some Brockport chants in the background. A lot of Brockport fans have made the trip down here. It's going to be kind of a nullified, I think, situation. It's strange when you get to the holidays and to off-terms type of stuff, although I think a lot of kids are back here on campus based on the parking lots, from what I could see here at Delaware Valley. Mm-hmm. But you have a little bit less in terms of a home field advantage the deeper you go into the playoffs because of what happens with who is and isn't on campus at that point in time. So expect here, yes, it's nice to have the home cooking, but the crowd size is going to be pretty equal, if I had to guess, between these two teams today. So putting that onto the table, I'm going to say, with weather not being an issue, I'm thinking that we're going to have a great game, and I think that we're going to have probably, I'd say, a low-scoring first half, probably in the 10-7 range, and Brockport probably coming out later on and doing what they do, which is get their defense to possibly even put up some points, or at least get them into scoring position for Joe Germinario and company, and ultimately win the game 20-14. That's my prediction on this one.
Yeah, I think that's probably a safe bet, although I could see, if Brockport does get a lead later in the second half, that the Aggies defense could maybe press and try to make, they've had 25 interceptions on the season. They're going to be probably, trying to bring pressure, create turnovers, and if they get on their heels a little bit, they may end up out of position, and Brockport could pull away by even more. I'm going to say that the Aggies, probably lead at the half, but I do feel the Eagles pull it away late. I'll give them 21 inch.
Okay, JB, we're back, and the predictions again were 20-14. I said for this game, and you said, what was your score?
I'm going to go 28-21. I'll give the Eagles an edge late.
So basically, we're both picking Brockport, and it kind of is funny. You got the home team, you got the 1 seed, and we're both picking against that matchup or that situation here. Kind of odd, but at the same time, I think that the way the playoffs lined up. Am I talking you out of it?
I'll switch around. Yeah. No, the home court has really ruled in these playoffs. I mean, and in this case, it's really hard to say, there isn't really a true underdog. These are pretty evenly matched teams. They have great explosive offense. I just think that Brockport has a little bit more of an edge with Germanario over Darden and some of the receivers like Ortiz. Morrison, if he's healthy, is a great running back, Division II transfer that's really done an amazing job this season for them. And then, like I said, McDonald there in the center that backs up Brockport. Looks like they have the edge in a few places. I do think, though, that Aggies, if they get Germanario some plays. We talked to Nick Wright earlier in the week, Miller earlier in the season. A lot of All-American caliber talent on that side of the ball for the Aggies, but they haven't been in a close ball game all year, basically. I mean, they had West almost caught up to them, in week 1, but since then they've blown everybody out. So it's kind of, Alfred gave money, Portland gave for their money. They're a little, as I said before, the MAC postseason was not good. They lost to teams they should have beaten, at least from when you look at the rankings and all that. So it makes her, maybe Brockport was just the benefit of a weaker schedule, which could help them. They may be healthier, but we'll see what happens.
JB, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to end this broadcast in a couple minutes after we give a couple parting shots, but we'll be back here with post-game comments from the winning team, the coach and the players. We're working with the NCAA rep here to make sure we do that as quickly as possible after the game. So after you watch the video broadcast, I would assume that Gordon Mann, our good friend, will be the voice of, and he does a great job all the time and he's a Del Val guy, sure, but he is a D3Football.com guy as well, just like me, and so not a homer as you would think that some of these guys might be at this point in the season. So you'll want to listen to him, especially if you're a Brockport fan. Don't fear Gordon, as he'll give you the straight up on this game. He was doing his research, I know, last night, and was very interested by the fact that they named some of their defensive back positions, one with a dollar sign, which I guess is either the cash back or the money back. Think about that during the Christmas season. But nonetheless, we're going to be back here, like I said, right afterward. But plenty to do, plenty to see online, and then check in on the other games as well. When we get back here, UMHB St. Thomas will not be finished as it starts at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. And so we'll at least get some ideas about where things stand. We'll give you the updates on that game and the Wartburg-Oshkosh game. We'll probably know the result of the Mount Union-Frostburg State game at that point. So we'll have a lot of post-game wrap-up here in lieu of what we normally do with our host chat. This will be your host chat coming up. JB, any final thoughts for folks as we close out here? This is going to be an interesting set of games, I think closer than week 2, that's for sure, where we had about a 25-point disparity across the entire 8 games that we watched.
Yeah, no, I think this is going to be probably one of the best weekends of the year. I mean, these are the top teams fighting for a chance to go to the Final Four. All excellent programs, all capable of winning a national title. So, we'll see. Who rises to the top. I think Brockport has a great opportunity. Del Val, though, has been pretty much unstoppable. We'll see if the Eagles can figure them out. On the flip side, Frostburg is going to be a huge underdog to Mount Union, but Mount Union hasn't played a team as good as Frostburg, honestly, and they have a lot of talent. Niles Scott, we spoke to earlier in the week, he's got NFL size, and so it'll be a challenge for the Raiders to contain him. Should be a couple of great games, along with the 1 o'clock kickoffs with Wartburg and against the Titans, and as you mentioned, the Tommies against the Crew.
Well, JB, it's time to watch a game here in Delaware Valley, Doylestown Township. in Pennsylvania. About 13 minutes to kickoff. Go get your streams at ncaa.com, d3football.com, etc. They will lead you to those streams. We will not be here at halftime. It's just postgame we'll be doing after this point. So come back to Facebook Live and look at our Twitter channel as well. But Facebook Live is where this will emanate from after the game, where we'll have postgame reactions from the winning team. Thanks for joining us here on Quarterfinals Live, the pregame version. Frank Rossi for James Baker. Thank you for joining us.